Good evening, everyone. It is my pleasure to host you to this webinar by upGrad Abroad, where we are going to discuss about why TOEFL should be your first choice when it comes to English proficiency exams that are required for your applications to overseas universities. My name is Rakhi Talukdar. I am a senior associate associated with upGrad Abroad. Now, everyone who's joined in here today would, of course, know that English language proficiency tests are a very vital part of the process of applying to universities and colleges abroad. And they're also a requirement for obtaining a student visa in many countries. Of course, why they are essential is because they demonstrate to universities and colleges that as a student, you have the necessary language skills to succeed in an academic environment. That is to, participate in your class discussions, complete your coursework and assignments. But it goes even beyond the academic environment because it shows your ability to speak and understand English, which is going to greatly enhance your school experience as you, of course, collaborate with and live with students who have grown up with English as their very first language. So when it comes to English language proficiency test, there are several tests out there, and some of the more commonly accepted ones are IELTS, TOEFL, PTE, so on and so forth. But today we have with us, and we are honored to have with us Ms. Michelle Hampton. Thank you so much for joining us here today, Ms. Michelle. Michelle is the director of the TOEFL Institutional Relations at Educational Testing Services. ETS, as you all may be aware of, is the organization which designs and administers the test. And Michelle has been working with and has been associated with ETS for over a decade. And she is an expert on what it takes to really ace the TOEFL exam. So without any further ado, I would hand it over to you now, Michelle.
Thank you so much, Rakhi, and good evening, everybody. I'm very excited to be able to help you learn a little bit more about the TOEFL. We have some exciting news, and I am going to share my screen so you can see my slide. All right. There we go. So as Rakhi mentioned, we're going to talk a bit about the test. We'll go over some tips to help you perform well, because I know all of you have the ability to do so. And that's also our goal, is to help you achieve the highest score possible. And we'll talk about some new information that'll be important. So TOEFL is the test of English as a foreign language. And it is required by many institutions that offer either a program that is taught in English, or the entire campus is an English-speaking campus. So it evaluates your ability specifically to deal with English in an academic setting. The questions are derived from university lectures. We record university professors so that way we can be certain that you're demonstrating your skills in those areas. There are 4 critical skills for language acquisition: the ability to read, listen, speak, and write in that language. We want to make sure that you'll understand everything that's taught to you. And for us, the TOEFL test gives you different ways to take the test, 3 in fact in India. You can take it at a test center, you can take the test at home, or you have the ability to have a hybrid or a combination of the two, where you take the reading, listening, and writing in the test center, and then no more than 3 days later at home, you take the 20-minute speaking section of the test. So all of those opportunities are available to you. All of the content is exactly the same. It is the same test regardless of where and how you take it. So why do people choose TOEFL? As Rakhi had mentioned, it definitely is providing universities evidence of your ability to understand the kind of lectures you would hear, the textbooks you would be reading, being able to contribute to those kinds of conversations. We offer test preparation materials that are both free as well as those that are priced for sale, because we want to give students the opportunity to prepare in any way they choose. Some are available on your mobile devices, and others are available as an actual physical product. But we want to make sure that you're also getting a head start over your peers, because you'll be able to demonstrate clearly that you're ready to begin courses the day you arrive. TOEFL is accepted all around the world in over 150 countries and by over 11,500 institutions or academic organizations around the world. And as you can see here, that means that you can take the TOEFL test and study anywhere in the world. There are English medium of instruction courses taught, for example, in German universities, in Saudi Arabia, and certainly throughout Asia. So you have the opportunity to travel and explore your education abroad. When I mentioned that you can test in the different ways that we offer the TOEFL IBT in 3 different formats, that meant that you could choose to test in a test center where we offer up to 60 different test administrations a year. You can choose the test date that works best for your schedule. You don't need to bring any additional equipment to the test center. Everything will be there. And there will be a live proctor in the testing center room with you to monitor the testing event. We offer enhanced safety procedures for you and for everyone testing there. The students who are testing at home are able to take the test on 4 different days out of the week, Sunday through Tuesday, Wednesday, through Thursday. Those students will find that the test is available on those 4 days, Sunday through Wednesday, 24 hours a day. So that gives you the opportunity to complete the assessment at a time that works best for you, because we require you to take the test when no one else is around you. You're in a room alone. We also have some additional technological requirements of your equipment that you also must meet in order to take the test at home and have a successful administration. We do provide during that kind of a test a live human proctor that monitors you virtually online during the entire testing event, from the minute you sit down and turn on your computer all the way through the actual test. I see there are some questions. I'll take those at the end if that's all right. And we use for all of our tests, for the speaking and the writing section, a combination of a human proctor, a human scorer, and AI scoring. For the passive skills, for the listening and the reading, we use AI scoring. But in both cases, students are able to complete their test successfully in either environment. We do find that test takers have found that some like to take the test at home, others prefer the test center, some try both to see which they prefer. When you're testing at home, though, you are using your own equipment that meets our requirement standards. And again, you're monitored by a live human proctor the entire time. We do have some unique features to the TOEFL IBT test that were created with test takers in mind to make the process more comfortable for you. We provide easier registration. You can register over the internet or also using the official TOEFL app on your mobile device. You'll also find that we accept the ADHAR card as your form of identification. If you don't have a passport, you can use your ADHAR card. We've extended the online registration, so you'll be able to register up to 2 days before the test date that you want. And you'll find, again, more test date options available for those who are testing in a test center. Many of our busiest test centers have morning testing and afternoon testing. We've reduced the retest waiting time. So if you want to take the test again, you can do it in as little as 3 days. So it would be possible, for example, if you wanted to test on the first Saturday of the month, you could test the following Saturday as well. The test itself currently is 3 hours in length, and that puts it on par with many of the other English language proficiency tests. I do have some news to share about a change coming up, but we also offer the My Best scores, which takes a look at if you've tested more than once, your highest performance in all 4 of the sections, so that way you can get a sense of where your strengths lie. We provide a faster turnaround. We get you your score results in 4 to 8 days if you're taking the test in a test center or at home. If you are taking the paper-based version of the test, where the 3 skills are taken in a test center on paper and the speaking is taken at home, you get your results between 11 and 13 days after the test. We need that time to get the paper test results that you filled out back to us to score. We are able, for the students taking the test in the test center or at home, to give you instant score results for your reading and listening section, because those are scored by a computer or AI scoring. And we've enhanced the speaking scoring so that way, again, we're combining a human who's listening to you to make sure what you have said does answer the question and make sense. And we're using the AI to make sure that what you said is grammatically correct. So I just want to touch on a few things about the format itself for the test. Regardless of the way that you take the test, we are measuring those 4 skills, as I mentioned before. Reading, that's always going to be your first section. Listening, there's a break built in for 10 minutes. Then there's a speaking and a writing section. Now, the timing and the number of questions and prompts or tasks in each section that you see on the screen right now is what's currently available. Come July 26th, we will be making a change to the test. And those changes include the fact that we're going to reduce the testing time. It'll be less than 2 hours. We have streamlined the registration process even more, again, based on the feedback that we've gotten from test takers. We are also making it easier for you to understand how to send your scores to an institution or an organization. And we are providing a free AI scored mobile practice set, which means that on your mobile device, you'll be able to get instant results on the answers that you give. And also we're improving the at-home testing experience for students who choose that option. The testing time itself is also going to change. You'll see that, excuse me, since the test is only going to be less than 2 hours in length, one of the things we did was we removed the break, because you won't be at the test center or testing as long. You will not need it. We also reduced the number of questions throughout the test because we removed the unscored sections. So this is showing you exactly how many questions you would get in each of the 4 sections and what that average timing would be. The test will still be scored the same. So it doesn't matter which version you take, the one that's available between now and July 25th, or the new version that starts July 26th. The way we score it is that each of the 4 sections is scored from a low of 0 to a high of 30, and you can get any point in between. You could get a 25 in reading, a 20 in listening, a 26 in speaking. We then add all 4 of your section skills together to come up with your total score. So your total score can be 0 to 120. And that information will always be available to you in your score results. Now, again, the ways that we're reducing the test time without sacrificing any quality in the test so that institutions can still have confidence in the TOEFL scores, and you also can be certain you're providing the best example of your English proficiency, is that we are removing unscored test items from the test. We are streamlining the test instructions so that it is much simpler and clearer what you are supposed to accomplish with each task. We're removing, excuse me, one entire reading passage and the questions associated with that passage. And we are replacing the independent writing task. There are 2 writing tasks, but we're replacing one of them with a type called writing for an academic discussion task. And that is because That's the kind of essays that students are currently being asked to write in their classrooms. So we wanted to modernize the test. Again, effective July 26th. So tests given on that day and forward will have these enhancements and will be just under 2 hours in length. We do not have a preference which test you register for. It really should be your decision. Let's take a look now at the actual tips that I can offer you for the test, either version. You'll find that the reading section, again, is trying to understand and measure your ability to comprehend academic passages in English. So the kind of thing that would happen if your professor said, read pages 8 to 32. We find that we offer the reading section always as the first part of the test. This information, the 3 to 4 passages, pertains to the current version that is available. As you just saw on the screen, this will be fewer questions, just 20 for the reading section as we move forward. The passages are taken from the college level textbooks and journals, and all the information that you need to answer these questions is within the test itself. It is not subject specific. You do not need to be any specific talent in an academic area. All of this is designed for anyone to understand. So to improve your reading skills, we recommend that you read in English as much and as often as you can. And it doesn't just have to be academic books. You could read material for fun, graphic novels, for example, anime. You could read poetry in English. But the important thing is that you're reading material that interests you and to make sure that you will want to continue and complete reading it. It doesn't help to focus on material that doesn't interest you. You'll find that you want to use your knowledge of grammar in your native language to help understand difficult sections of a passage. You want to break it down. And you want to also expand your vocabulary by analyzing the parts of the word. For example, if anything starts with un or un, that usually means that it's not. So then the rest of the word unacceptable means not acceptable. So tricks like that. In the listening section, you'll find that we're measuring your ability to understand conversations and lectures in English. So you're actually going to wear a headset and hear two people speaking. And then you'll be able to provide your answer as to what they are addressing. It's always the second section of the test. And again, you're drawing in information. You will see that some of the questions in this section have 2 answers that are required, and you have to answer both correctly in order to get the point for the question. In some questions, you will also hear part of the lecture again, because the specific question we're asking you is contained within that detail. And again, the time for this section that you see on the screen is for the version of the test that is available today. So to improve your listening skills, we want you to practice listening to something in English every day. That includes music. It doesn't have to be just 2 people talking, but movies, videos are also helpful. And if you also join any chat groups online with other students trying to learn English, that is also a great way to do it. Use the resources in your community to practice listening in English. Do you have some friends from school who are also trying to improve their English skills? Are there people within your community that happen to be native speakers of English? Begin to prepare for academic situations. Try and think about what's going on in your classrooms now. What would that be like in an English-speaking environment? Chances are very similar. You want to develop a note-taking strategy. Throughout the TOEFL IBT, you are given scratch paper and you can write notes to help you craft your answers or to highlight important points that you think might help you answer a question later. You can listen for signals that'll help you understand the organization of talk and connections between ideas. But the key thing is you want to read every single answer choice to make sure you're selecting the correct one, and to make sure, as I mentioned before, if the question needs 2 answers, that you're giving both answers. The speaking section is designed to evaluate your ability to speak in an academic environment. It's always the third section of the test, and in the current version, it comes after a 10-minute break. Once we roll out the new test on July 26th, there will not be a 10-minute break because the test is so much shorter. The test takers are going to speak their responses into the microphone that's built into the headset that they'll wear when they're testing. You will have, in the current version today, 4 questions and tasks that you'll have to complete in a time frame of about 17 minutes. And tips to improve your speaking skills. You want to become familiar with the actual speaking section of the test. And that's important because you want to understand exactly how long is a minute when you're speaking an answer, because that's all you have to give your response. The machine will cut you off once you've exceeded 1 minute in length. And you want to practice using the free sets of prep that we have available. That's very important. Again, refer to the notes that you will have taken on the section. Record yourself speaking in English. Have your friends listen to you or your parents. Make sure that someone who can speak English can understand exactly what you're trying to say and give you good feedback on your performance. You want to concentrate on speaking very clearly with good pronunciation and intonation. Speaking with confidence and opening your mouth more widely than you normally do. I know it might look and feel a little funny, but it makes great sense. In fact, I'm actually doing it now. I would not normally be this animated when I speak. In the writing section, what we're trying to measure is your ability to write in English in an academic setting and clearly communicate the ideas that you're trying to discuss. So it's always the last section of the test, and there are 2 writing tasks. Even in the new version of the TOEFL IBT come July 26th, there will still be 2 writing tasks. This first one, the integrated writing task, is what's currently available right now until July 25th. In it, a student reads a short passage, listens to a short lecture, which is a professor speaking, and then the test taker writes the response as to what you read and what you've heard. And you have 20 minutes to complete that. The independent writing task, that is in the current test and will be in the future test. The integrated writing task will be replaced by writing for an academic discussion in the version come July 26th. The independent writing task asks you to write an essay based on your personal experience or an opinion that you have in response to an actual writing topic that we provide to you. You will type all your responses in the writing section on the computer or the laptop that you're using on test day. And at this current time, when you take the writing section, you have a total of 50 minutes to complete it. Ways to improve your writing skills: you want to read and listen to academic articles and other material in your own language. And that's really because it helps you then break it down and understand what's important in what you are hearing or reading, so that when you write, you can make it clear. But you do want to actually write your response in English. If you can, you want to practice typing on a QWERTY standard English keyboard. There are examples online if you need that. You want to practice writing grammatically. Correct sentences use appropriate words to summarize information. You want to practice your English writing and typing every day if you can, so that way on test day you're much more relaxed and confident in your ability to do it. You want to take the time to edit what you've written. You want to allow for that. You want to think quality of what you're writing rather than quantity. We do not need to have the longest response written. If you can answer succinctly and clearly what we're asking you to do, then do so. Again, the length is not as critical as what it is that you've written. And you want to continue to improve your English writing ability. All four of these skills are going to be critical to you in your educational pursuit. So we offer test preparation materials, as I mentioned before, and currently what you see in front of you are the test materials available for the current version of the test. And they're all available online or through your mobile app once you download that on either your Apple or your Android device, so that way you can prepare wherever you are, in the classroom, on the bus, waiting at a doctor's office. All of that is possible. And you'll see we have a great variety of test preparation materials because everybody learns a little bit differently. And with some of these, like the one in the middle, the full free practice test, you're getting the chance to look at past questions that were actually used. We do have available test preparation materials for the new version of the test, and I'll show you how to access that in just a minute. So some of the test preparation materials we have include an free online course that you see here that is designed to be self-paced. It spans 6 weeks of lessons. But if, for example, you're a person who knows that you struggle with the writing section, you may only want to join this particular free class during the week that we're working on the writing portion of the test. You can concentrate on just one skill or a couple of skills or the entire assessment. The choice is yours. We have some videos online on our TOEFL YouTube channel, as you can see down the bottom there, that were provided by both ESL teachers, English teachers, as well as the people who make the TOEFL test. And they give you tips in general on all four of the skills. Our priced test preparation materials that you can see here are also available, and they really span the gamut. They also include some tests, full-length tests, as well as the ability to combine them. So for all of the practice tests that you see online, each one is different. So if you were to purchase one of the practice books that has the 7 tests in it, all 7 are different. And those 7 are different from the practice tests in the official volume 1 and 2 that you see on screen. So a lot of different questions and a lot of practice material is available. Some students combine multiple test prep sources and can take advantage of the value pack pricing to do so. As I mentioned, the TOEFL Go official app is a great way to access all of this material and to find out good general information, as well as also be able to register for the test. For those of you who choose to take the TOEFL IBT paper edition, which combines testing in the test center and at home, you will find that we also have free practice test for you available online that you can use. When you look to prepare for the test that we're going to offer starting on July 26th of this year and forward, when you go to the TOEFL website, which is www.ets.org/TOEFL, and click on Test Taker to indicate that that's what you are, you will see that a little pop-up will appear as it demonstrated on the slide right now, an enhanced TOEFL IBT experience. If you click the Learn More button, you will be taken to the page that has the test preparation materials for the new test. So you don't have to worry about getting confused between which test prep materials you need. If you are testing before July 26th, you can go to the ETS website or use the test prep access in the app and choose that you're testing now and access the current materials. If you see that there's test preparation materials available for the enhanced TOEFL IBT experience, click that to access the test prep materials for the test that'll be offered July 26th and forward. You want to also make sure that you're taking a practice test. One of the benefits of our practice test is that you can take it unscored just to see what the questions are like, or you can take it scored and get feedback on your performance. And that's true for all 4 of the skills. So that's a great plus. And becoming familiar with how the test is administered takes a lot of the fear out of the test come test day. Again, we mentioned the official guide. We have an ebook format, but we also provide it in paper with interactive downloads if that's the way you prefer to have it. But the ebook is available on your mobile devices, as are the official IBT tests that you see here. And the value packs that I mentioned, these allow us to provide you with a discounted rate when you're combining different types of test prep materials because you want to practice in a variety of ways. You want to make sure that you're focusing on your weakest skill and building that up. You'll know that by taking a practice test once and seeing what your score is. And then you can focus on improving that particular skill. It's a much more efficient way to prepare for the test. You want to use proven test taking strategies. You want to carefully follow the directions. You don't want to panic. And you also want to avoid spending too much time on any one question. All of the questions in the test are the same weight, 1 point. So you want to get as many correct as possible. You also want to pace yourself so that you have enough time to answer every question and practice, practice, practice. So that's the information that I have for you. I'm going to stop sharing now so that way I can see you and respond to the questions you have.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle, for the very informative presentation. And I think we've been able to get some incredible insights on the exam and including some very helpful tips on how you need to proceed in your journey. And I do see that our learners have a lot of questions that have come up, and we can take the next couple of minutes to address them. To begin with, Michelle, of course, in the very beginning of your presentation, what really caught my eye is how popular TOEFL really is. It's accepted by over 80% of the universities in Canada, 100% of the universities in the UK, all Russell Group, universities accepted, even so in the US. So my first question to you would be, what is the reason for its popularity?
Sure. I think the biggest reason is because it's really the only English language proficiency test that focuses exclusively on having academic content.
Right.
So that the faculty at the university can be certain that you're ready to handle coursework the day you arrive.
Yes. Absolutely. So would it be safe to say that it is because the test is built on rigorous research, and I think it's unmatched when it comes to the quality or the kind of questions that they offer?
Yes, we have extensive research. As a matter of fact,
Yes.
Over 250 research documents on our website, both performed by external folks and
Yes.
internal folks that look at language acquisition in general, but specifically about how students learn English. What is the best way? How can we make sure that we're understanding that the student understands the material, but maybe didn't phrase it in the usual way? Because we want to make sure that we are being fair to all of our test takers in evaluating them. So we make sure that our questions are unbiased by pre-testing them. And we provide test takers the ability to let us know if they think that a question is biased. We then research it, and if necessary, we'll remove it from the test because we want everyone to have the ability to test fairly and objectively.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that as well. When it comes to the countries which are non-Anglophone countries, let's say, for example, Germany, and why I ask this is because I've got a couple of questions from learners who are aspiring to go to Germany. And their question is that when it comes to Germany, which is a more preferable option? Is TOEFL a good enough alternative for Germany? Or do German universities prefer other English proficiency examinations?
So you always need to check the university website of the school
Yeah.
that you're interested in.
Yeah.
But what you'll find is that TOEFL has been accepted around the world since 1964. So
Yeah.
a very long time. And that's by universities on every continent because there have always been some courses that
Yeah.
are taught in English. So it is a great option to accept it.
Okay, perfect. I think that answers a lot of questions that the learners may have. Also, when it comes to US universities, because I think that US primarily focuses on the TOEFL and so does Canada. In that sense, what is a safe score which most of the universities, tier one or tier two universities in the US accept?
Sure. So you'll find that it really does vary. Every school can set their own school requirements, but the decision on the score that they're setting is first and foremost based on whether or not they can provide any additional English language support for the students on campus. So,
Yes.
for example, in the Ivy League institutions in the US, Yale, Harvard, Princeton, they do not offer any additional English support. So they will typically ask students to get a total score of at least 100 or higher. Again, the maximum score on TOEFL is 120. So
Yeah.
somewhere between 100 and 120. Schools that are still highly competitive, but do offer some support, they may typically require a total score of anywhere between a 90
Yeah.
and maybe 112.
Yeah.
So you will see a broad range, but you do need to look at the university's website for the schools that you're interested in to make sure you understand what they require.
Okay, perfect. But it is
Mhm.
safe to say that 90 to 100 is a good score to have.
It is. You will find that there can be some exceptions, as
Yeah.
I mentioned, but I would say it's safe to aim for that. One thing we do find in our annual research when we analyze the results of all the test takers worldwide who have taken the TOEFL IBT, regardless of reason for taking it, we find that for those who are doing it to go into undergraduate study at university, the average score for the past 25 years has been somewhere between 79 and 81. And when we look at people who are going for graduate school,
Yeah.
we see it's a higher number. And that oftentimes might be because they studied in the undergraduate experience already in English. But there we see that the median or average score is typically between an 83 and an 85.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay, perfect. Okay. That's helpful, Michelle. And of course, a high score also means that you do have better English proficiency skills, and oftentimes universities may consider that to be a mark of your credibility. Or so one of our learners has a question that will the evaluation of TOEFL directly get us to the admission of the university? So what they are trying to probably say is that essentially when you're looking at universities in the US or Europe, they have certain standardized tests like GMAT or GRE, which determine your academic ability, so to say. But does a high score on the TOEFL also give you a better chance to get into a university of your choice?
So I was an admissions official in the US for 20
Yeah.
years.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that the TOEFL is designed to evaluate your English proficiency, not your academic content knowledge.
Yeah.
So it is not viewed in the same way as an admissions entrance test like the GRE or the GMAT for business school. It is designed to help the university understand whether or not you can effectively communicate and understand English well enough to do well in your courses. So it is one of several criteria that admissions offices require. You must remember they ask for an application. They will ask you to write essays at the graduate school level, a statement of purpose as to why you're studying that particular discipline. They'll want to have recommendation letters from your teachers. They'll want to see your transcript from your secondary school or your undergraduate experience. So they're looking at a lot, and they may even require an interview, either in person or virtually. So there's a great deal of information, but a strong performance on TOEFL does give them confidence that you would be a student who could do well in their classrooms.
Absolutely. Yes, I think that is just an add-on, so to say, in addition to your competitive examinations, the scores on your competitive examinations or your standardized test. It's always helpful if you have a better TOEFL score. Now, one thing, Michelle, is with respect to when should the learners ideally get started on their preparation? And you've been, you've covered in detail about, what materials that they can refer to. And of course, the ETS also provides them a host of materials, and there are lots of free courses out there. But how soon would you suggest that, aspirants start with their TOEFL preparation?
I think at the very least,
Yeah.
they should prepare 6 weeks in advance. And
Okay.
that's where our online course, the free course, that's 6 weeks in duration, could be helpful. Some students do not plan well
Yeah.
and allow themselves a lot of time to prepare.
Yeah.
So for those students, definitely take a practice test at least twice. Once without any preparation at all, just take it, see how you do. You'll quickly realize what areas you struggle with, what you didn't understand, and then focus your energies on preparing in that way. So this would be if you only have 3 weeks or so to prepare, and then take the second practice test and see if you've improved. That's the concern, but we hope that students will be planful.
Yes, it's always helpful to prepare in advance. 6 weeks is
Mhm.
what you would suggest. Absolutely.
Yes,
And how many times can an aspirant take the TOEFL test? And is there a gap between the test that they have to maintain if they've taken it once already?
sure. So fortunately, the number of times a student can take the TOEFL test is unlimited.
Right.
It really just depends on their own patience and willingness.
Yeah.
But a student can test once every 3 days.
Oh, wow.
So the important thing to keep in mind, though, is while you're testing every 3 days, you don't get your results in 3 days.
Yes.
So you want to make sure that if you're going to test more than once, you allow enough time to get your results, which is if you're testing in a test center or taking the home version, you want to allow at least 4 to 8 days
Yeah.
after the test to get your results. Then you can test again and know which areas you need to improve on. If you don't allow that time, you may sort of be wasting your money and your effort. I think it's always better to know how you did first to then decide if you want to proceed and go ahead. But remember, you will, whenever you take the test, get your unofficial reading and listening results at the end of the test. That'll appear on the screen so that you'll know how you did in 2 of the 4 skills.
Core skills. Perfect. And
Mhm.
I think that way they can prepare for if they would like to go ahead for another test as well. This also
Mhm.
means that every time they are taking a test, they would have to pay a registration fee. Does it mean that?
Yes, it does,
Absolutely.
which is the other reason why I think it's important for students to get their results first. Because
Yeah.
if you do not need
Hmm.
to retest, if you perform so well your first time
Yeah.
and you meet the requirements of your institutions, you do not need to test again. And with all of the current academic work that you're trying to complete, or the job that you have, or the family and jobs that you're
Yes.
balancing, you don't want to test unnecessarily.
Absolutely. Yes. And, of course, it's you do not want to test unnecessarily. It becomes a very expensive affair, so to
Mhm.
say. And, there are a lot of other things that you need to take into account when you are applying overseas, which equally deserve your time. So when it comes to the cost, and this is a question which many of our audience also has, that what
Mhm.
is exactly the registration fee for TOEFL? And they also have some questions regarding the logistics. For example, it may happen that after they have registered, they may want to change their registration to a different date or a test center. So does ETS allow that? And are there any circumstances under which this registration may be canceled?
Certainly. So the current registration fee in India to take the test, regardless of where you're taking it, is 195 US dollars.
Perfect.
And for students who need to or desire to change their registration date, they can do so. There's a narrow window when there's no charge for it, and then there's a charge after that window. And I think the charge, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's $50 or $60 to change. All of that information is on our website and in the app. So you can look at it before you register. You'll have that information and can make an accurate decision. Sometimes, students will want to test in a test center, and maybe something's come up in the family, and they're unable to do so. So they can choose to either cancel it outright or just reschedule. We know these things occur, and we try to be sensitive to that. But yes, it is possible to change your test date.
Perfect. That's incredible. Yes. Michelle, as we have just a couple of minutes, I think we have close to over 10 minutes. And I can see that towards the end of the webinar is where all the questions and the more important questions are cropping up. So I would, and we do also have a good audience viewing this, a good number on the webinar, which is 50. And I would encourage all of you who've been, who've taken out the time to attend this webinar. You have 10 minutes and you have Michelle for you. So please feel free to get all your questions answered. Michelle, of course, TOEFL, you've mentioned that it's the more popular test, and there are different variations of TOEFL. For example, you have the IBT and you also have the PBT. And some of the learners have a question that, of course, when it comes to both of these examinations, they test you on the 4 core language skills, which is listening, reading, writing, and speaking. But what are some of the core differences between the two?
Certainly. So actually, I do want to make a clarification. The TOEFL IBT internet-based test is the only existing TOEFL test right now. You can take it 3 different ways. You can take it in a test center, at home, or the hybrid combination or the paper edition. So really, the only difference between the 3 is the delivery method. So if a student comes to a test center, as I mentioned before, they don't have to bring any equipment. They just need their ID information. And because they register online ahead of time, and they just come into the test center, sit down, and take the test. The students who are able to or choose to test at home need to have a computer that and internet access that allows them to test within that 3-hour window and meets our technical specifications. Not everybody has that luxury. So for some students, that's not possible. And therefore, also, they would not be able to do the paper version of the TOEFL IBT because that includes the speaking section at home, taken roughly 3 days or less after they've done the 3 other sections, the reading, writing, and listening, in a test center. So the technology is really what can determine whether or not a student is able to test outside of a testing center. We know for some students too, it might be that the nearest test center is not conveniently located. So that's part of the reason why we offer the home version. And for the universities, they accept all formats of the TOEFL IBT because it's the exact same test. We ask the same questions. We score it the same way. We are pulling the content of the test to make it from the same source. So it really is an identical test no matter where you take it.
Yes, and including the grading, there is not going to be any differentiation in terms of the grading as well.
Correct. The actual score scale for all formats is the same. 0 to 30 for each of the 4 sections. Then
Yeah,
we add your 4 sections together to come up with your total score between 0
right,
and 120. A
right.
university would be able to tell, because of the coding that's used on the test, if you took it in a test center, or if you tested at home, or if you took the paper edition. And the reason for that is they love statistics at the universities. So it lets them track what formats they're getting, as well as other admissions data that they're gathering from your application.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Michelle. Thanks for that. Right. Michelle, you have mentioned about one particular aspect during your presentation, and that is that learners, whenever they're taking any English proficiency test, it's very important for them to choose a test that they are ideally comfortable with. Now, some of our learners here have a choice between, let's say, IELTS or PTE, or even the more recent Duolingo. And the question that they have is, when it comes to judging on these 4 core language skills, how is it that TOEFL tests you differently, and why is it that you should go ahead with TOEFL?
Sure. So the first thing is that we use content from actual university courses. So for a university to decide whether you're ready to communicate in English in their classrooms, on their campus, with their faculty on a daily basis, they have the greatest confidence in TOEFL because it's academic content. It's material that you would read in a textbook. You're discussing that. You're hearing a conversation between a faculty member and a student about the content. So that's important. IELTS uses a mix of academic English and general English, as does PTE in their actual tests. So it's not all academic content. And
Perfect.
Duolingo actually is rather unique. For example, what it does, a particular question type is, it's a list of words, and they ask you which of these is English. None of that is going to tell me that you can open this chemistry book and understand what is written in it. So it's not the best way to evaluate your preparation for university study.
Right. Right, absolutely. And gauging the popularity of the test, and it's also, I think, safe to say that most of the countries also prefer TOEFL when it comes to meeting visa requirements. Is that so?
It's true, because it's such a rigorous test. If
Yeah.
you're able to show that you can read a university textbook, something with a great deal of material in it, a lot of words, a lot of big words, vocabulary words, and understand it well,
Yeah.
then any employer, any government agency is confident that you would be able to also have a visa interview, and speak clearly, but also be able to handle yourself in an everyday engagement with the general public, your classmates, the future director of your internship.
Okay, perfect. So that would essentially mean that it just allows the aspirant to it prevents them from taking multiple tests, because it's possible that if you are going ahead with an IELTS, which also other universities accept, during your visa application process, most of the countries would mandate a TOEFL.
They prefer it. They may not mandate it. They may not go that far to say it, but they do prefer TOEFL.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Michelle. And before we close, I think we just have 5 more minutes. Some of our learners would like you to elaborate more on how to practice for the writing section, because I think that's the adaptive part of the test, and it's more subjective part of the test. And you've already shared some very helpful insights. But any final thoughts on that?
I think For me, the most important thing is to get an egg timer or use your phone to practice writing in a timed format, because that's really challenging. You want to make sure that you are answering the question, saying everything that you want to say in as clear and concise a manner as possible. So take out some paper or use your keyboard, since you'll be writing on that. Take out your phone and time yourself and try to write an answer. And again, because we have so many free practice writing prompts online, you can pull one of them and practice. And don't just write it once, write it once on Sunday and maybe come back and try it again on Wednesday. See if what you've written makes any better sense. On test day, you had that scratch paper, so you could use that to make an outline of what it is that you want to cover in your essay. If you know that you want to answer this or you want to state that, then you have the ability to have that practice material on that sheet next to you during the test. I think taking advantage of the free practice materials is the best way forward. Not only does it give you familiarity, but it allows you the opportunity to practice. And definitely writing in a timed limit format is critical.
All right. Thanks so much, Michelle. And I
Thank
think
you, Rocky.
yes, on that note, we can close the webinar. So once again, thank you we are very grateful for your time and your effort, Michelle, to share your thoughts. And the time that when this webinar has happened is the results of the class 12 board examinations have just been announced. And I think these tips are incredibly going to be helpful because it's come at a very timely manner. So thanks to all our learners also who've joined in. My colleague Arushi has put in some details on the chat box. And if you would like to get in touch with any of the counselors, we are very happy to help you. And you can place a request and we will get back to you shortly.
And I want to thank you at upGrad Abroad, because this is a wonderful opportunity for students to become familiar with the tests that they need to take and to gain confidence in their ability to perform well.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle.
Thank you, Rocky. Good evening, everybody.